Jeff Chandley, and why do we care?
Well, I don't know if you really care, but yeah, I'm the director of tennis here at the historic Atlanta Athletic Club. I've been here 16 years. Have been the director of tennis the whole time, and for 3 years was the director of athletics also. Before that, I was at the Landings Club in Savannah, Georgia for 10 years, director of tennis and athletic director also, and then Sawgrass Country Club before that for 8 years, and became the director of tennis and the director of athletics there. And but really kind of just started my career in Nashville after college. I was a football player through high school, had football scholarships, but had been injured quite a bit. And my junior year of high school, I decided I was going to take up tennis, and I fell in love with it in high school and played my senior year for our freshman football coach, tennis coach, and had to have somebody pay for my college. So I talked my way onto a junior college team and ended up playing on two nationally ranked teams. And then was blessed enough to get to Nashville, Tennessee, where I played for Trevecca Nazarene College, an NAIA school there in Nashville, and started my career shortly after I graduated from Trevecca. I was really blessed to be able to get under the teaching arm of Peter Van Lingen, and probably not known here in Atlanta, but Peter was an incredible player from South Africa, was Davis Cup player for South Africa, had wins over Ash and Stan Smith. And I spent 5 years with him teaching, and the guy was so far ahead of the game. I mean, guys are teaching modern tennis now. Peter was teaching that, and I was learning from him on the teaching side for 5 years. And he was so far ahead of everybody that he was teaching the modern tennis back 44 years ago. So it was very impressive to be under him. Peter wanted nothing to do with the business side of tennis. He didn't want to run events. He just wanted to teach. So when I finally started answering the questions in the clinics before he did, I knew it was time for me to maybe start looking around, and I had pretty much paid my dues. Lucky enough, I had built a reputation enough in Nashville that I got hired over at Maryland Farms by a new director that came in. It's a great club. It was 8 indoor courts, 16 outdoor courts, was an athletic facility, didn't have a golf course. And that director left shortly after I got hired. I didn't push him out, but anyway, and I talked to the GM and the owner at that time and said, give me a chance to be the director of tennis there. And they pulled the strings and let me do it, and was my first real director's job in finding out about what the business side of tennis was. I remember my first day being the director, I went straight to the accounting department, sat on the guy's sofa and just said, tell me anything about accounting for a country club, because it's so much different than what I try to do with my checkbook. So was able to stay there for 5 years, got the Virginia Slims of Nashville there, which was a $150,000 event. Worked with Steve Duffel, who's big in the Southern tennis, USTA Southern. He was the owner of the tournament, but just gave me a lot of opportunities to meet a lot of players on the tour and really kind of learn about the tournament side. And then from there went on to Sawgrass Country Club, where again, I learned what it was like to be in a private country club. Tennis committees and the hierarchy of what golf means to a private country club. So I was able to kind of cut my teeth on that. But and that's, married to a beautiful wife that understands the hours that I got to put in. I got 3 great kids, 2 out of college, 1 that's finishing college right now at this advanced old age of mine, and just blessed to have been in this profession for the 44 years. Both a PTR and USPTA member, and now a PPR, certified pickleball pro, which is a trend now. My new title here is director of racket sports and not director of tennis anymore. So the world is changing for us in tennis a lot, but that's kind of who and what I am or been through.
I love it. It's the beginning to end. So can you give me the quick version when you went and played in college, you played not far from where I played. I played at Lipscomb in Nashville.
Oh yeah.
So I was nearby. So you've mentioned a
Yeah. Oh
couple of
yeah.
these clubs, and I still have a few friends that are my age that are in those clubs still teaching in the Nashville area.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
think of that, and I left college, and I know Bobby did too, with tennis teaching not on the radar. It was not a
No.
thing for us. That was not the plan. And I think a lot of guys do that. We kind of somehow fall into teaching tennis. And I don't know that other professions feel that way. And maybe more people do it than I think. You know, you graduate with your law degree, you go be a lawyer. But maybe most people graduate with their useless philosophy degree like I did and kind of have no idea where to go with their life. And maybe that's what you get when you get a philosophy.
I was there with you. Let me tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we
Yeah,
both understand the
I had a
lost feeling.
so-called business degree. Yeah, didn't know
Okay. Well,
minor in communication. So where's that going to get me? Well, if you're from Nashville, you may have heard of Nashville Village,
mhm.
and it was and I was working behind the pro shop. I was working at Red Cap, which was packing boxes at night, and then working during school, and then working at Nashville Village with Peter Van Lingen. And he came to me one day and he goes, "Hey, do you want to learn this business?" Now I'm just behind the desk, pro shop guy making court reservations. And again, didn't know what I was going to do. And I said, "Sure." And he goes, "I'm moving to West Side Athletic Club over near Belmead." And so I said, "Okay, let's go." And really, what I found out is my father was in the building business, and he was building a house with a farmer, and he realized that I had some experience in building. So it was kind of I would teach a little bit, then go over to his house and build on his house, and then come back and teach. But he was the one that really just said there were a couple people in my life that have been instrumental in me getting into the business. When I fell in love with tennis in high school, a guy named Don Cully, who was a member of our little Morristown Country Club in East Tennessee, and he goes, "You seem to really like tennis." And I had no money. And he said, "I'm gonna let you use one of my cars and I'll pay. You go find the best pro in Knoxville and I'll pay for a lesson a week." And so, I took up on that. So that was very instrumental in me.
wait a minute. Wait. A guy gave you a car and paid for your tennis
Just
lesson.
just to use the car. He didn't give me the car. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
No,
who does that
no,
happen to, Jeff?
yeah, I'm telling you, it's just it's Don Cully. I'll never forget that gentleman. Um, yeah, and yeah, I never took any of his nice cars. He had a pickup truck, and I always took the pickup truck. And so he had some really nice cars, but I always just took the pickup truck. And I found Tommy Mosier over in Knoxville, and I don't know if that name rings a bell with any of you all. He was a legend in Knoxville at the Knoxville Racket Club. But I remember then, nothing against Tommy, he's passed away now, but I can remember here I was, this kid that didn't know how to dress in a private country club tennis facility, and the whole time that he was supposedly teaching me, he was looking around the court and watching what was going on all the other courts. And I'll never forget that, and swore that if I ever later on in life when I was teaching, I was never going to be that pro, because it was he, even though I was paying him. So that lasted two whole lessons with Tommy before I realized that. And then, of course, Alan Smith, who was the athletic director and tennis director there at the Trevecca Nazarene College, um, again, saw us playing at a regional junior college and wanted to know if I wanted to come to Trevecca. And so I got Don Cully, I've got Alan Smith and Peter Van Lingen that were instrumental in me getting into the business. That was longer than what you wanted to hear, but that was
No,
his.
but I think that's a great thing because people need to hear that, especially the young coaches. Bobby and I talk with the ideas. We've talked to Capistani, we've talked to guys at the different colleges where I first met Scott Hutchinson. He said, I graduated with a tennis coaching degree. I'm like, that's not a thing. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
And
right, right.
but it is. And
Yes.
those are the kids. When Scott was, same age as you, junior in high school, he's like, I think I can do this. That sounds like fun. He had that path. And that was, I had to somehow get sucked in or whatever it was that happened to me.
Sure.
And but to hear that and to take some of these maybe young players that don't realize, doesn't mean you have to be Jeff Chandley. I'm talking to you, young players, right? You don't have to end up at the best country club in the world, but you can make a decent living. You can figure out all these things. You can join the business side if you want to. We talk to all kinds of people that are ancillary to tennis, but not necessarily teaching tennis all day. And then you got others. We got a partner with Go Tennis, Rob Carver. That guy is on court when he's awake, and it's just what he loves to do, and that's great. But there are different ways to do it, and I appreciate that story. So you're at Atlanta Athletic Club, and my whole career, I confused Atlanta Athletic Club with Atlanta Country Club. Now, Bobby, Atlanta Country Club is Ken.
It's Ken. That's where Ken is.
Yes,
Yes,
Atlanta
exactly.
Athletic Club is Jeff. Now, you're in Johns Creek, right, Jeff?
Correct. Okay, in Johns Creek.
Give us the quick how cool Atlanta Athletic Club is.
Wow. Well, again,
the quick version.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of history. 1898 that it was started downtown as an athletic club. It actually started with tennis first, and softball or baseball and basketball is athletic, no golf. So we always brag that tennis was a part of the Atlanta Athletic Club before golf. But then again, you have the history of Bobby Jones. You have the history of John Heisman as one of our athletic directors. In fact, his contract, $50, I think it's $50 a month, was his contract with the Atlanta Athletic Club to be the athletic director here at the club. So there's a rich history of this club, and from not just the PGA side or the USGA side, but also from we had before I got here, the AT&T Challenge. That was a huge event, which I'm still so sad that I never came to when I was in Nashville or whatever, and missed out to finally be here at this club. But it is, and I'm not saying this because I'm a member or part of the senior leadership team here at the club, but this membership is incredible and has been so supportive of what we're trying to do here as a team from my staff. And they're seeing the fruits of that, and the fun that we have, and the culture, really the culture and the sense of community that we build here at the tennis side. It's a really a cool place. But you can take all the history and which is awesome, and we're just glad that I'm a part of that. But the culture that we've built from a tennis side here, and that sense of community when people walk in the door, is a really cool thing. It's fun to come in to work every day. I don't ever dread it. It's not like some clubs I've been in. Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all walked in at some point thinking, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. Like, I'm not excited to come to work today.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's what good old Mike Leach told me when he came down and took over the Ponte Vedra Club down there, and he goes, it is a job, not fun, but this has been fun. This has been fun, and I've always looked at it that way. I don't think I've ever dreaded it, but walking in the door. But a lot of it has to do with the team that I get to work with and that we put together, and their drive and their dedication to what we've got planned and what we're trying to do here, and that whole sense of community. So.
Got it. And Bobby, I can see you just being patient.
Well, he's using all my, he's using my words. Culture. You know how I feel about that's our job. You got to build the culture, and as we talked, I don't think we were on yet. We were talking while we were getting our technical difficulties worked out. Sometimes it takes a little bit to massage to get the right staff, to get the right group, to get the culture moving in the direction. I took over a club similar to what you're saying. Went into work with a friend, and 2 weeks later, the friend was gone. First, people associate that you put the knife marks in his back. I was like, no, I was coming here to work with him. And, but it was a different culture, and a lot of things were going on behind the scenes that I had no idea. And it took a while. It really took a while. And I'm thankful for the people that, gave us the opportunity to go through, because, other people would have made a quicker decision. Now we're 10 years into it, and everybody's like, wow, glad we stuck, or 11 years into it, glad we stuck it out. Yeah. But I still have one of the emails from early on as a reminder that, not everybody was a fan. So, it's tough.
It's interesting, this later part of my career, and you send your head pros off to be, we talked about Andrew Manelli or Mike Robertson or Jeff Hedges, these guys that have gone on to be directors. And it's always interesting when they call me after the first 6, 8, 9 months, and they go, I don't think I can do this. and I'm like, once it becomes your culture, once it becomes, Mike Robertson talked to me about this a little while ago at TPC Sugarloaf. And I said, once it becomes your program and all, you'll see how you just got to be patient. You'll see how it all works out. And, all those guys have been successful because they stuck it out.
Yeah.
But, I can tell some horror stories about, the first couple years of being at each club, and, again, the politics that goes along with it, and what people try to do to move you out. But, just if you believe in what you're trying to do and you've seen success in the past, then you know what it takes to get a program, or what a successful or a healthy program looks like. Then you can kind of map it out and just stick to your guns, and you're A-okay.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. You bring up, because historically, as you said, the Atlanta Athletic Club has always hired outside people, from out of state. Yeah. And, the initial reaction within the state is, oh, well, they don't understand Alta. But, listening to you, it is a great idea not to know either, because basically I feel, and I've been, as we talked about, the years add up. I guess I've been doing this at that level for about 25 years now. You go in with your, it was always about building culture, but our job has changed. We are about a lot of managing people. There's so much tennis in Atlanta between Alta, USTA, T2. The need for us to do events is minimalized, but that doesn't change the other side of it. So it's really a different skill set that is required. And I think that leads to there's a big difference, as we see in all business, between the sales leader and the sales manager. There's a difference between the head pro and the director. And I think unfortunately, a lot of the hiring people don't see that distinction. And, it's a different hat. It's definitely a different hat.
And again, I don't think I said this. I can't remember if I said it or not. I didn't start playing tennis like a lot of these guys did when they were 4, 5, and 6 years old. I picked it up when I was the summer after my junior year of high school. And so my playing skills are not up to speed with a lot of the players that have been playing all their life and played tournaments. And even though I played tournaments and ended up playing college, so I really focused on the business side, and then of course under Peter Van Lingen, the teaching side, because you kind of got three pillars. You got your business, you got your teaching, and then you have your playing skill. Right. And so I've always, been able to focus on the business and the teaching side, and I think those are my two strongest points. But and again, I've been through 3 general managers at Sawgrass, 3 general managers at the Landings Club, 3 general managers here at the AAC. And I've seen the directors of those clubs. They always hire the opposite of what they just had. Yeah. It's a fact of life. I mean, it's just the opposite of what they had. Chances are when I finally retire, they may bring in a player. Yeah, I know they did that at the Landings. They immediately brought in a NCAA champ. Didn't last but a year. Right. Then they brought in another NCAA champ. That lasted a year. And then, they went through, and they ended up with a great guy down there that is more in line with the business side, the teaching side, and all of that after 10 years. But I've seen it happen in every department. They hire the opposite of what they just had. And
we've all thought it. We've all thought it.
Yeah. Yeah. White collar, same thing. If the restaurant was down, the next general manager was going to be a restaurant background. There was no question.
And every chef that comes in is, even though you spend $1 million on changing out the kitchen a year earlier, and the chef comes in and it's like, what were you all thinking? We got to have them, it's this isn't going to work. So yeah, we're all experts until we're not experts. But I've just seen that happen so many times, so many times.
And so Jeff, the young, if you're going to talk to that younger self of yours, to be able to say, okay, well, the you're going to be the guy now bringing in the younger coaches, and you're going to want to hire that culture. If you're going to be able to talk to me as a young coach, or talk to the coaches out there, to be able to say, okay, this is what you want to be. This is how you want to groom yourself, how you want to be ready for a position like this. Be able to say, hey, I'd love to work at a country club. And what does that actually look like? Because just coming off the tour is, in my opinion, not even a third of what gets you a job teaching tennis, because that's not the same thing. Yes, it's one of the three, but I think it's the least of that, is how good are you at playing tennis. And directors seem to know that, but not all the head pros seem to know that, because a lot of the head pros seem to be former players. But to look at those main points and saying, are you interested in learning the business, even if you don't already? Is there that path? One of the things I appreciated about the Wilson Tennills of the world, and you mentioned TBC Sugarloaf with Robo. Sorry, I don't even know his real name, Mike Robertson.
Mike Robertson, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kidding. He's on one of our tennis teams, and we play tennis
okay. Yeah.
for fun. We just call him Robo.
Okay.
But he's a guy that's gonna get it, and he's gonna bring in the right people, and he's gonna be successful because he figures that out. But I think back to the Wilson Tennills and the Daryl Lewises that helped me evolve while I was there. I think the guys that don't work in the clubs, they really don't get that same feature because they don't have that mentor, the director helping the head pro and the head pro helping everybody else. I assume that's part of your culture.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we keep them involved. One, I'll teach you everything I know as long as you want to know it. And that's the key, is you have to. I will lay it out for you. I can, drag the horse to the pond, but you're going to have to be the one to drink. And so there's a huge opportunity here at the club or any of these clubs that if you want it, I can help you get to it and show you how to get there. But I share everything. Our financials on a monthly basis. We go through those types of things. We talk about in our weekly staff meetings, from not just the tennis teaching side or the league side, but what's the business side looking like. I offer them every pro to send them to a clay court seminar, to go out and learn about from the ground up how a clay court is made and why it's groomed the way it's groomed and all of those, because those are things you need to know. Resurfacing hard courts, go out and watch them resurface the hard courts. You just have to experience these things. But the key is if you want it under my tutelage, if you want it, I'll be glad to spend as much time as I possibly can with you to show you how it's going to take to get you to the next level, or I will introduce you to somebody. Again, we talked about Mark McMahon and his certified racket. What is it? Certified racket
Sports
executive certification. Yep. And Carmen's gone through it, my associate director, and I have Lance, my pro over men's tennis, going through it right now. Great program. I mean, I've been able to see Carmen develop quite a bit from what she's learned from that. But that's a $3,000 investment into one of my.
It's not cheap, but it's not overly expensive. It's reasonable.
No, but it's what I've seen of the criteria and the curriculum better. Yeah. The curriculum is really solid. And Mark and I talk, but I think, I wish I had to learn that on my own, but I think that's a good tool and an opportunity for a young pro. If somebody will invest the money into it, or they should invest it themselves if they're really serious about getting into this profession at this kind of level.
That's a good testimonial. We'll have to put the link in the show notes or something to make sure Mark knows that you're saying good things about that, because that's always good.
Well, I've been very impressed with what he's done with that through Carmen, and Lance has just started his series with that group this past month, so we'll be following him through it. But I love to see a young pro that maybe doesn't know how to teach like I did. And, when I first started, to go, okay, just sit on the side of the court and watch all five of the pros teach to learn, to get a feel for it. But it just takes the pro wanting it and doing things that necessarily he may not be getting paid for, but to get the experience.
And what we used
And
to
that's,
call paying your dues a little bit, because
yep,
and that
yep.
that kind of speaks to Bobby. I see the smirk, but that's not it's not a common. I don't even want to say it's a feeling, but it's not a common thing. You talked about experience, and we all say, "Oh, I've got 10 years of experience. I should be ready for a thing." But somebody said to me the other day, they said, "Right, but what experiences have you had? You've got experience. Did you just teach a bunch of lessons over 10 years? Because that means you're really good at that. Can you
Yep.
give me some experiences? What have you experienced to
Yep.
to make you feel like you're ready to be able to do a thing? Because getting a director's job is no small task. That's maybe you
No,
get a
not
small
now.
club, maybe you kind of head pro your way into it. But as we all know in Atlanta, that doesn't happen very often because we like to bring in outside talent.
Well, and you got to stay relative outside these gates. I mean, one of the again, hate to use the word four pillars, but one of them is image enhancement. And how do you enhance the program? But then also you need to enhance your image outside of these gates of the Atlanta Athletic Club. Be known through the GPTA, show up at the seminars, go, we host the USPTA Winter Workshop. Great, it's a great one. I don't have to send my pros to travel, but two, it's held right here, in on our facility, and we have the opportunity to learn and then to move on, on a national level, get involved, volunteer with the USPTA or PTR, and just kind of rock and roll. But that's important about getting your name and your brand out.
I think that was a thing that held me back. And unfortunately, Bobby and I weren't talking much at the time. We had met, but I didn't have him as the mentor that I kind of view him a little bit now in a way, is for him to look at me and say, Shaun, you need to be doing these extra things. And I say, whether it's paying your dues or just doing your due diligence, some of those extra things that nobody wants to do anymore. We all say, well, I just got to get home and walk the dog, or we have different priorities to be able to say, hey, Shaun, you needed to be GPTA. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
expensive, but if you're not part of a club, some of those expenses are on you, and you start doing the math on, oh, well, I got to feed my family, or am I going to take a week off in late September and go to Florida for the World
Yeah.
Conference, or whatever it is? Like, most people can't do that.
No.
That's the thing. I mean, you want to start understanding Alta. Why are you doing a tennis teaching convention in late September in the South? That just
Yeah.
most of us can't go. So to be
Yeah.
able to understand those things makes a big difference. Obviously, I think, but to be able to understand those things younger, and if we talk to that younger coach and say, hey, yeah, they're going to be a late night or two, or we're going to be on a GPTA call as of recording. Tonight we're going to be up late. A lot of people driving home, and a lot of people, I'll be putting my son to bed while on the call, and just trying to get the work life balance, but also really realizing you need those extra things. None of us are getting paid for that, but
No.
that doesn't mean we don't want to talk to each other and learn from each other if we really do want that next thing in our career.
Well, and it's so true, because there for a while, I mean, I'm blessed again to be at the Atlanta Athletic Club, and we pay the dues for our staff, and I would pay the $75 for the GPTA, and then nobody would go.
Yeah.
So then it was, okay, you're going to pay. And then if you hit these hurdles throughout the year, then I'll reimburse you for the $75. And just said, I'm tired of just you having GPTA on your name tag and you're not doing anything with it, and I'm paying $75. So we kind of reversed that and just said, hey, you have to write an article, you have to do this, and this, and then I will reimburse you. But the whole work-life balance right now is just an animal, because it's I hate that phrase, because it's not anything I knew. It's not anything I knew growing up.
No.
And luckily I have a wife that understands that this is not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job. my kids, even though I was very involved with the kids at school because I could take off in the middle of the day and go take them lunch or volunteer. Um, but there's a lot of this, give me 40 hours a week, which is unheard of, but give me 40 hours a week. And sometimes we struggle getting 40 hours a week in, and I'm paying salaries and lesson commission.
Uh-huh.
It's frustrating. That's the toughest part of this job right now is getting people to work, without, if they want a raise, go teach one more lesson a week. That's the best way to get a raise.
Easy, right?
Like, go
Do the
Yeah,
math.
that's better than the 3% I could give you on your, stipend. But go
Exactly.
get another lesson, and there's the best raise you can possibly get compared to
Yeah.
what I could give you for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's if you want to get the hair on the back of my neck up, start talking to me about work-life balance.
All right. So
Because
we'll have to
we're
create a round
balancing.
table. We'll create a round table and we'll figure out who wants to
And
get together
it's
and have that
not
conversation.
going to change. I mean, it's the culture
No, but
right
we need to
now.
understand it. We need to be
Yep.
able to deal with it. Luke Jensen told us at one point, he's like, these 20 somethings in their phones. He's like, you can't fight it. You're going against the tide here. So you just got to work with, just move the needle, just figure
Yep.
out. And maybe that's what I mean by we can't get together and fix it because it's not a problem to be fixed. It is a
Correct.
lifestyle and a scenario that we just need to understand and to be able to manage. It's no
Mm-hmm.
longer just the baby boomer understanding the millennial. That seems easy now in retrospect.
Mm-hmm. My wife is she has an advertising agency, and she listened to, and I wish I could quote her, but she was at a seminar and they brought in a professor that specialized in how to deal with the Gen Zs, all the baby boomers, and how you're going to have to
Right.
communicate through. It was incredible. And again, I wish I had said on this, and I actually tried to get the club to pay for this professor to come in because it's a lot of what we're dealing with. How do I talk to a baby boomer or a Gen Z or, so it's a new culture. It's going to be a struggle.
Yeah. Well, and from struggles to successes, if I were to say, hey, Jeff, what are some of your successes in the way of how you do what you do? And say, hey, here's a bit of a key. Here's how you talk about culture. And Bobby's all in with that, whether it's playing music or making sure that your coaches go to the GPTA meetings or
Yeah.
the team building, whatever you do. If you got to do the falling exercises, I don't care. But
Yeah.
whatever you do seems to be working. So I know
Yeah.
you may not have on the wall, here are our 3 keys to success, but could you share a little bit of why you think things work so well there?
Well, I do have 4 keys to success, and
There
I've
we
already
go.
mentioned one of them, and that's image enhancement. We'll specialize in our instruction. We focus on our maintenance, and we focus on our customer service. Those are the four things that we pretty much lean on and lean into on a daily basis. And if we can keep those things in check, so you got your image enhancement, of course. So we already talked about that. Instruction. We want to be the best instructors, and a wide. I specialize in a certain group. Carmen specializes in a certain group. Wendy is great with beginners, kids, and beginner women. You know, Enoch is funny and a great player, so all the good players want to hit with Enoch. So we try to make sure what we hire is to plug into the different facets of our membership. What they're going to need, and so that's the instructional part. The maintenance part is key. A club and people that pay $120,000 just to walk in the door here and a couple $1,000s a month, expect this place to look and feel like $120,000 initiation fee club. So we're very mindful of what the facility should look like. I started at the Landings Club, a standards and audits program, and we set standards for each tennis court and what a tennis hard court's supposed to look like. Everything from the top of the net all the way to the windscreens, to the surface, the net poles, the entrance, all of those things, clay court, indoor court. And then my tennis committee goes out every quarter and I have an audit sheet. It's a pass or fail. And so the tennis committee goes out and audits each court. I'll give a member 2 courts. It takes them all of 30 minutes or 4 courts, just depends on who. We call them audit parties because I always have beer and wine and some cheese there for them to get them there. Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a day, you know, and then the staff will do the same thing on the off months to go out and audit a set of courts. So the maintenance side, and then putting together a life cycle plan for everything that you have on that you're in charge of. When I first got here, I took pictures of everything, and so I run through those pictures every year to make sure that I've taken care of the issues. But a life cycle plan is an important part of keeping a facility up and going. So that's the maintenance side. And then the customer service side, it again becomes that, you know, we're the bartenders of the world over here at the tennis department. So we know so much about this membership, and we want to make sure that when they walk in the door, they're greeted, they're taken care of. One of the things I always stress with my staff is you just don't know what they're walking through that day. You know, it could be an issue, it could, you know, just something in their life that may not. So let's make sure when they leave or they have a good time or that we're sympathetic to if they're a little disgruntled that day. And you know, it can chap you, but you got to, you know, just step back and go, what are they walking through that day? And just, you know, just kind of protect them. And that's part of the customer service. I mean, it's, again, hiring the right person that has that mentality. You can train them to do anything. But if they have a customer service mentality, then you're golden. They're worth every dollar and then some. So, and I'm lucky that, you know, my pro shop supervisor is that type of person, and we'll take on any job.
I have a feeling that's not luck.
Well, yeah,
I'm pretty sure you were involved in that hiring process.
Yeah, I mean, well, but you know, again, sometimes well, no, I'm going to say it was luck because she came from the locker room, the ladies' locker room, and wanted. And again, culture is everything. I can't tell you how many employees of the club want to come over here and work at tennis, just because of our culture. But she's been a diamond. So I'm just proud of her and what she's taken on, and in any responsibility. The club just took over the pro shop. I owned the pro shop before, and I leased it out to YourServe. And the club is, you know, the world is turning. You remember when the pros and the golf pros owned the shop? Well, the club took over the golf shop after our past director of 25 years left. And so now the club owns that. And they wanted to do it with the tennis shop. So it took about 1.5 years. And I knew that it would be good for the membership. So she's taken on a lot of that responsibility. And it's been great.
Nice. Those transitions sometimes take a while, but they're important. So, Bobby,
yep.
I know you've got probably 7 or 8 questions. If you got 1 or 2, you want to pick your favorites, and then I'll hit him with King of Tennis, and we'll.
Well, I think you brought it up just real quick. I don't think anything is by coincidence. I think, you know, part of it is, a lot of it, most of it is the culture that is created. One thing that, and again, we always go into it, what's the next discussion, and it's the future of tennis, and where is tennis lacking is, you know, the new guys coming in. I love to talk to Jeff more about, and I share a similar background, that tennis wasn't my number one sport. And I think that really attributes to the fact why at 58 years old, I still love hitting the ball. I didn't play as long, you know, so it wasn't the pressure of the life. So I still enjoy it. And I think that brings a different look to the guys that get hired right off of the tour, or high level college players might not be, don't have the customer service, because, hey, you got to be selfish to be successful. So now you're taking somebody who is inherently selfish and saying, no, you have to be responsive to somebody else's needs. That's tough. That takes time if you feel the person has got the ability. And in today's mentality, today's world, that's not the way they're trained. You know, they're trained to the next thing. And that's my only, you know, what I would want to talk to Mark about, because when I went to grad school, I remember, you know, we're getting out of grad, well, we should be getting a job that's, you know, this much money for our degree. I'm like, well, if they're not offering that, and you want the job, you have to decide whether or not you want that job or not, because economies, simple business, economies of scale. Yes, we have an advanced sports marketing master's degree, but anybody wants that job. So somebody's going to say yes to it and go bust their butt and work their way up, when you're going to sit there and say, well, I was worth more. So it's tough. And the other thing that made me laugh is, and this is the saddest part, and I think this is symptomatic, is that and again, I think we were talking about before we actually started to roll, the old school Atlanta, if you want to be a director, was go see Cindy Jones. And, you know, we brought up Matt Grayson, we brought up Wilson Tennille, and the tree that came out. Everybody went, if you were going to stay in the profession and you didn't get lucky like me, who had a different mentor, who had just, you know, right time, right place, where I got to be a rising star and didn't abuse it. These guys, you know, that doesn't exist anymore. You know, it's not, you want to go see Matt or you want to go see, you know, Cindy was the place to go. And at that time, Cindy, you know, you could go to TPC, you could go to Country Club of Roswell, you could pick the job. No, that was Cindy. And we don't have that anymore. And that's what scares me about the kids, because they come out saying, oh, I got this degree, I'm ready. You're still not ready. You learn more than you did beforehand, but you're still not. There's another pillar that's got to come into play. So you're going to have to go work on that pillar. Yes, you're further along, you're more hireable than you were, but don't think you have any of the answers. This is still number one. I tell people, you want to be a good tennis instructor, show up 5 minutes early. You'll be great. Sure. You want to be even better, show up 10 minutes early. Set up, have everything waiting for the people. They'll be amazed, because you don't understand what they're coming out of most of the time. Wasn't that guy. So if you can be just a little bit better on the simple things, you're in a great starting place. So no, commend to the job, Jeff. It's been a pleasure. I could see, I mean, not what I expected at all. I you know, but we've been around each other in different places, but man, really great to talk to you. I get it while we're working, and continued success out there. I wish you were there when I said, we talked about, I was out there for a little bit with the old senior tour, and I had to put up with your predecessor, who had pretty much checked out. And it was always fun. The place treated us stupendously, and, you know, unbelievable. And walking around the history, I think we had the PGA Championship was there one year, which made getting there a bit of a pain. But oh boy, great time. So
I was really, I've been a part of a lot of great tennis tournaments, but to be able to be a part of the PGA in 2011. It was quite a show. Yeah. So this has been an honor for me. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
No worries. Thank you. We appreciate it. Keep up the good work. And Shaun, I'm done.
Well, maybe it's a strange thing to say. Maybe Jeff is the new Cindy.
There you go.
What my fear is, I agree with that, but I think Jeff's people are not going to stay.
That's true.
I think they're going to
outside his door.
Yeah, that's the hard part about Metro Atlanta. There aren't too many of those jobs.
Right.
No.
You know, the elite, the job, and they're going, you know, they're going, even they're taking away more than they're giving. I mean, you know, there was more clubs when I started. I could count probably 5. And we mentioned 3. I think we mentioned 3 of the 5 right off the bat, you know, or 4 in TPC. And I would even say TPC probably isn't at the level of the other 3. But, you know, it's tough. The guys, it's more HOA driven, and it's sad to say, eventually you get what you pay for. You know, if you're looking to take a little shortcut, save a little money, I get it. Well, that's going to affect your culture. That's all.
Well, and I always tell these young pros, part of my success, and again, is that I've been able to move towns.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I was a young pro and thinking that I'm going to move up the chain in Atlanta, that's going to be a tough one. But if I'm able to broaden my thought process of, I would go here for a head pro job or a director's job in whatever town, and start, you know, cutting my teeth there, then go do it. Yeah. You know, if you have that ability to go do it, because my success, again, has been, every jump has been a much better jump. Yeah. But if I had tried to stay in the town, you know, in Jacksonville and Ponte Vedra, all the pros came out of Flagler. university or
College.
college.
Yeah.
And I was the first one that came from out of town. And then Mike Leach came in from here and took over Ponte Vedra Club. But if you were sitting around waiting for those jobs in the town, that's a long haul.
Yeah.
But if you can tell yourself as this is the career, and it's great to go to new towns and you know, experience the culture and all, and but it was really, really good for my career to be able to change jobs in different towns.
And I'll
So
play on that. Forgive the religious reference, but we're in Georgia. I can get away with it. There's no profits in the homeland is something that has resonated with me often, because sometimes I go in and I see, and somebody who knew me when I was a 25-year-old idiot in the industry and making a name for myself, maybe not in the best way. If I had said, hey, you know what, maybe a head pro job in Nashville where I don't have that history of somebody realizing that I was young and dumb, they just look at the body of work and be able to make that move, and maybe just realize that if you come back in a few years and say, oh, maybe he went out and matured a little bit and came back. Bobby and I have stuck with Atlanta, so we've got history and everybody knows it, and that's just part of the deal that we navigate while we're here. You were smart enough to be able to leave and end up where you needed to be next. I think that's a fantastic idea to be able to share.
Yeah. And you gotta, if you're married and have kids, you gotta have a spouse that'll go, let's go. You know, again, I mean, it's, if they're, you know, my wife, again, her advertising agency, none of her clients are in Atlanta. Well, they are now, but at that time, so everything was virtual. So she would travel a little bit. So thank God, she'd just go, hey, let's go. It's better for you.
Having the family that understands, it helps there a lot. So I want to jump into our last question, Jeff. Again, we appreciate the time. It's always fun. We always learn something. I think Bobby and I are in one of the best positions that you can be in Atlanta, because we get to talk to anybody and everybody, and we learn so much, and we've learned so much over the last few years. But one of my favorite ways to learn is asking what we call the king of tennis question. So I want to ask you, Jeff, you are king of tennis, whether it's the whole world or just Atlanta or just your club, at any level, professional, social, whatever level of tennis. Is there anything you would do or change?
Without getting in too much trouble, is I would revamp the USTA.
Ooh,
from a national. You won't get in trouble here. Don't worry.
And again, it's where I am in my career right now, and I'm not expecting to get any awards or any pats on the back, but I think that it's time that the USTA has always fallen behind and not been the leader that it should be. And you know, this whole cluster that we had with the USPTA and PTR certification and what it was meant to be should have happened 30, 40 years ago, like the other federations had. But then, you know, when we see the drop off in American tennis players on the tour or just playing, and there's a reason for that. And I think the USTA dropped the ball on that. You know, and again, you go, and I have not been down to the national campus, but it seems like most of the coaches down there are foreign coaches, not American coaches, that are bringing up our kids, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I think some of the best pros coming in for teaching pros are the foreign, because they know how to work and they're willing to work. But I think we've really need to, if I could, and I don't have the answer how I would revamp it. I just know the frustration.
That's where I was going to push, because if you're king, you have to know how to do it too. You can't just say do it. So if you don't have the answer now, what I will do is I'm going to call you next week.
Okay. I'll put more of the answer in. I'll put more of the answer in. The first thing I would do would be the grassroots program. I would spend a lot of time on, you know, I try to teach my pros all the time. It's a pyramid. I want 1,000 red ball kids, and I'll take 500 orange ball and 300 green ball, and then I'll deal with the others. That's the pyramid that we need to have. If we don't have the feeder group, and if we just focus on the top level kids, and that's what was happening here at the club when I took over. all the effort was on 5 or 6 kids, while the rest of them were, not getting they were the 5 or 6 really good players, and the rest of the kids were not getting the attention they should have, and we lost. The program was really small. But the USTA, we have to start fresh. We have to start with the beginners, both adults and the juniors, and build the program up that way. Our biggest program has been Tennis 101 here. And it's, we've introduced probably, I don't have the number off the top, probably 350 brand new tennis players to the game, and we're keeping them about 70% retention. And so we're getting them involved. As soon as they get through 101, they go into 201, then they get into, C8. And so I had one team that went from 101 to state championship in USTA 2.5. So it's a cool little thing. But again, off of what we've done here, I would spend a lot of time on the beginners and introducing people to the game. Pickleball I just spent a boatload of money on 8 pickleball courts. A boatload. We converted our stadium court to 8 pickleball courts. It reminds me of tennis 40 years ago, when it didn't matter who you played with. It was a little more social, and the levels, easy to get into the game. That's why that's how we have to make tennis for these beginners.
Yeah, that's a great point of view, and I think you're speaking Bobby's language there too. But Jeff, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm calling you.
No, I appreciate you all.
How you're going to do your King of Tennis, but I think that's okay. Your pyramid, maybe that is the revamp, and maybe that's just a financial.
I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, it's marketing 101. The more people you have at the bottom, the more you'll have up on top. I mean, it's always the hard part.
And a back door.
But also, it speaks to your 4 pillars, though, because as you said earlier, you have somebody who likes to work, and I think this is the big problem with when you bring in the superstar player, they don't want to coach the beginner. They don't. So, really, what, like you said, the leadership needs to decide: do we really need a pro to teach a beginner? We need somebody to get them excited about the game, to see where their next step is. Like, what we try to do with our junior program. Shaun runs our 12 and under, and I want them to see what's next to them and what comes after that. So you see where you want to get, and you decide where you want to go. And either, I think, through lack of resources, unfortunately, or bad judgment by the leadership, that doesn't necessarily translate. And it's tough. It's tough. It's not an easy thing to do, but thankfully somebody in a position like yourself who can do it and as doing it is going to benefit the game. So in the long run, we're going to be okay.